Good morning, crafty friends. Happy Saturday. Welcome to Stamp and Create with Beth. I'm Beth Roy, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And I'm just pulling up my video here. I'm going to give it a couple minutes, excuse me, to find everything and make sure we're going. And there we go. I have a new videoing spot in my room, so I may need to adjust a few things. It's hard to tell sometimes how it's going to look. So if I'm a little crooked, please forgive me. Oh, thank you for the love. Good morning, Joan. Good morning, Maggie. I am feeling better. I think I still sound a little rough, so I apologize for that. But I am feeling a little bit better. So hopefully everything's working. Like I said, I'm in a new location, so everything's had to kind of change around. And we'll see. I'm going to move this slightly so it's not in the camera. There we go. So how is everybody doing? And I'm going to be drinking lots of coffee this morning. So today is Saturday, November 16th, 2024. And I am going to show you this technique with vellum. I call this a see-through card. It's kind of like an opaque front. So if you open it and you can kind of put your hand in there and see that it is kind of see-through. But I love this technique. Now I am using, I do have a retired embossing folder over here that I use, but I'm going to show you some other ones as well. But you can use whatever you have on hand. So here's one that I made with, this was an older embossing folder that I've used quite a bit called Softly Falling. It looks like snow, but we do have a snowflake embossing folder that you can get if you don't have this one. And then I used, names are lost on me right now. It might be So Swirly. So that's a good one. And I actually used the deboss side, the emboss sides on this side. So it doesn't matter which way you use it. For my birds card, I used the birch one that's in the current mini catalog, September to December. And this is actually cut from the paper. And then I used a paper pumpkin stamp that I like. So you just do the inside. And then here is another one. So you can do it whichever direction you like. This one I stamped my greeting. So on the inside, it actually shows through as well. So this is the Yuletide Village. And again, I used that Softly Falling. So whatever embossing folders that you have that you like, you can use on this. You want it to not be completely filled up. So Joan, I know that Stampin' Up! Discontinued selling vellum. I happen to have a pack that I hoarded because I do like vellum techniques. So I do not have a new source for vellum. When I run out of vellum, I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to get vellum from. I'm really kind of have my fingers crossed that Stampin' Up! Might bring it back. But I have in the past bought it from places like Hobby Lobby, places that sell scrapbooking paper. And I'm sure there's probably a source on Amazon. I just haven't really looked at it yet. I just had bought a pack before it went away, so I happen to have a brand new pack. So I don't even know if this is opened. It's not even opened. So I had a sheet of vellum apparently, and this pack's not even open yet. So there you have it. Let me open it now. So, I just happen to have it on hand. So I'm sorry that it is not available anymore from me. But vellum is still a thing. So I just don't know where to tell you to get it. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Christy. So I am using up my Stampin' Up! Vellum. Now, I think there is vellum in the catalog, but it's like textured or colored or something. But we don't have this anymore. So you will have to find some. But in the past, I did buy it from craft stores. So yeah. Good morning, Jan. Yeah, so sorry about that, everyone, that you can't buy it from me anymore, but I guarantee you can still get it. So here's one that I created years ago. Now, the barn cards that I shared the other day, I've used those. I use those for Christmas cards. So they're no longer in my room, but I did find this one. So if you have some of these retired sets, you can do a scene builder with a building. And so the sleigh riders are from the Christmas barn set. And this is, let me tell you the name. I think it's Cabin in the Woods, maybe. Tell you really quick because it's right here. Peaceful Cabin. Sorry, Peaceful Cabin. Don't know where I got that other name. Anyway, if you have some of these older sets, you could use those as well. Okay. And this was another retired embossing folder that had big snowflakes. I still have this one as well. I just didn't pull it out and use it. So we can use whatever you guys want. Now this embossing folder is a little bit thinner, and that's okay. It's one of the smaller embossing folders. But I like to just layer my front, and we're going to get into that. So you guys ready? Oh, also this one, I used the Trucking Along, and I used the tree from the Yuletide Village set. So I thought, we might be able to combine some things today. What do you guys think? So, I'm going to put that off to the side. And we're using my color scheme today. I thought that would be fun. So I have, I don't have my Pretty Peacock, but right now I have all my inks and things very near me instead of across the room. So I can grab whatever we need. But I wanted to use our Teals and Red color scheme today, like this one. Now I didn't use Pretty Peacock in this one, but I did this. And you can keep it pretty simple. And I thought, this truck could actually go with the Yuletide Village. It's really cute. Now there is a presents that go with this, and we can do whatever. So I will tell you, now the barn, the cabin, those things all had dies that went with them. And a lot of this I just used my scissors and I fussy cut it. So don't feel like you have to have all the things, but you will need, if you want to do this technique, a cut and emboss machine, and some kind of embossing folders that you like. So what do you guys think? You guys ready to create today? Now, something else you want to have on hand is tear and tape. You'll need some strong adhesive because the vellum, anything embossed that has texture needs really strong tape, but it will definitely be needed with the vellum because it's so thin. So you will need that as well. So we have some decisions to make. Now this one I made with a colored cardstock. I did bring white over. I like to do them with white because I'm trying to create a snowy scene, but you don't have to use white. I did some other cards. Again, I must have used all of them last year for my Christmas cards. We had, I think it was called Perched in a Tree with a robin. And I had done some cards with it, and I did a different color. And I had like a bird here with some pine boughs. So there's lots of possibilities for this. Joan, I knew you would love the truck. But as I was looking at these cards, I was thinking, oh, you could combine these. The truck could be down here and your house could be in the background. So you could even combine those sets if you have those. So we have to decide what we want to do. So I will show you how to cut everything, but first we are going to decide what stamps we want to use. So you guys ready to do some voting? So I have the Winterly Treetops. Now on this card, I didn't actually stamp and color anything. I actually cut it from the Designer Series paper, but we can always stamp and cut. And then I have the Yuletide Village and the Trucking Along, and we can combine these two if you would like to do that. So your vote's going to go like this. Are you guys ready? Thank you, Joan. Number 1 is birds, okay? Number 2 is Yuletide Village. And then number 3, let's combine these two sets. So we have a truck and a house in the background. So 1, 2 with Yuletide Village on its own, or 3, these two combined. And I like to layer up the front of my card and have a couple layers there. So let's vote, and then I'm going to show you how to build this card. So if you want to throw your vote in, throw it in. Otherwise, it looks like the choice 3 is winning. I love this little truck, and this is an online exclusive, and sometimes I just forget about it. And I will show you, this does have presents that can go in the back, and I think it's meant more for like a birthday, but we could color it so that it looks like Christmas presents coming to town. Those are some big presents, but still cute. So this one I did a tree, and then I thought about it afterwards. And you could do a tree too. We'll make some decisions about how we want our card to look. Okay, so I think I'm going to go with these. So let me move some things around here. I also had some paper cut over here because, well, I already trimmed them out, so they were ready to go. We're going to toss those to the side. Okay, so are you guys ready? Oh, thank you for the love. Just trying to find safe spots for everything. I'm in a new area, so I'm getting used to where everything is. And I'm hoping the lighting is okay. So this is kind of a test run. Hello, Xana. Good afternoon to you. So let me know what you think, because I'm trying to rearrange a little bit in my room. Okay, so we're going to start, we're going to combine these two sets, and I'm going to grab my, actually I have Pretty Peacock blends. I think we'll be okay with it. So we'll just need to decide how we want to build our scene. So, you guys ready? I do have white. We're going to build a snowy scene. So I've got a sheet of basic white, and I have a sheet of vellum. Now, basic white you can still get from me. The vellum is no longer sold. Like I said, my fingers are crossed that maybe it's getting revamped. I don't know. But if not, you can find it at a craft store, and I'm positive it's probably on Amazon. So, sorry, I have a cord in my way. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to pull in my trimmer here, and we're going to start cutting so we can build our card. So the vellum, I'm just cutting in half. So at 4 1/4. So I'm cutting my piece in half, and then I'm going to cut it in half this way. So you can get 4 pieces for your for 4 cards out of 1 sheet. And then the 11-inch side is cut at 5 1/2. And I like to just make sure that it's even, because I have noticed sometimes our sheets are about 1/8 of an inch or so, or 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch bigger than the stated size. So sometimes I like to just double check that. So we have a sheet of 5 1/2 by 4 1/4 piece of vellum that we're going to emboss. And then we need to cut our card base. And so I'm going to cut this at 5 1/2. Now, normally I score this and then cut, so I have 2 bases, but I'm going to need this sheet to build some of my other layers. So I'm going to score now. So I cut it at 5 1/2, and I'm going to score the 8 1/2-inch side at 4 1/4. Then pull one of my cards back in here. We have to create this little lip to hold our vellum to the front of our card. And so you're going to take your scored base. So we scored it at 4 1/4, and you're going to move it over to 4 3/4. And you're going to cut. So here's our bottom, and then here's the top, and where we glue our vellum. So pretty easy, right? It's kind of a wow card, but it has very simple steps. Now here's the tricky part. I'm going to try to stand. Hopefully I don't block too much of the light. Okay, so now we're going to cut this piece down, and you can really decide a lot of different things. Let me bring in my samples here. So like this one, I stamped and then cut around it. So this is really tall. So it depends on what you are making and how tall you want that layer. Obviously, we don't want it to cover the whole thing. So if I stamp a building here, I'm going to want to make sure this is cut lower so that vellum is peeking through. So on this one, you can kind of see where these went all the way to the top. So there are decisions that you have to make. And you can do that based on the types of things you're putting on your card. There's no right or wrong. You just want to make sure some of the vellum is showing, because that's what makes it see-through. So I usually leave this one as is, and then I decide if I need to trim it. And then I take this piece, and I usually do 2 or 2 1/2 inches, and it kind of depends on what we're stamping. So for instance, we have this truck. I'm just going to pull out my stamp. This is part of the planning. And I have to decide, my truck's going to go here. If I cut it at 2, do I have enough room for my greeting? Because on that front layer, let me get a little house card here. On this front layer, so this is the front layer, this is the back layer, you're stamping your greeting. So on this one, I stamped a scene, cut around it, stamped a scene, cut around it, and layered them. You can also use dimensionals on this front panel. So you're going to have 2 panels on here, and then we're also going to add a panel back here for stability. So that goes into the planning. That's a little bit of the planning and what you need to think about on how high you want to cut that. You can go bigger if you want bigger, depending on how much you want to put on there. So let's start at 2 1/2 and just see. We can always trim it. It's just paper. Okay. So this is a landscape card like this, and our layers need to be the full length. So we want to leave this 5 1/2, and then you're just varying the sizes. And we're going to cut this down. I can already see I'm probably going to cut it down a lot more than that. I'm going to take a 2-inch piece to put for the inside. Okay, and I'll show you that. So there are our pieces. So these can change. They don't have to be the same height. The piece for the back, I use 2 inches, and that's going to help make my vellum a little sturdier. Okay, and it looks like my white piece might have been a little bit. Remember when I said sometimes it's 1/8 of an inch? Well, it is. So just trim it off. Not a big deal. So this is how our card builds. I'm going to trim this little piece too and make sure that it's at 5.5. You can always trim it once you get it together, but sometimes I mess it up. So I like to just trim, make sure everything's ready to go before I start stamping and building. So there is our card bases. Do you guys have any questions about the card base? So you can do it portrait like this. You would just have 4 1/4 by 11. Same thing. You score at 5.5 and then you cut at 5 and, at 6. So you can change it around like I did with the bird card. They do not stand up as well. I don't know why. It has something to do with the card, where the cardstock fibers and what happens when you're scoring those. So I like to do it landscape. Okay, now I do have my cut and emboss over here. I haven't tried it on the table yet, so we'll see. So we have to decide how we want to do this. So I have this So Swirly. That's the one I used on the truck. And then this is the Softly Falling. Remember, this is a really old retired product, but I like it. And I still have those big snowflake ones too. Those, that I used, this sample cards you saw online in my previous video used this embossing folder called Wintry. It was from last year. So I have this one as well, which are just big snowflakes. They're fun. So there is a current one that has, it's called Snowflake something, and you can grab that in my store. So we have to decide how we want to emboss our vellum. So we'll move these pieces out of the way for a minute. And here's our vellum, and we're going to emboss it. So what do you think? Which embossing folder would you like to use? Let's do A for the falling snow. That looks like this. Okay. Let's do B for the So Swirly. So it looks like this background. To me, this looked like, I don't know, snow blowing or something. And C will be this big snowflake, swirly, wintry look. So A, B, C. Let's decide. And this will come together kind of quick. I don't do a lot of blending. I do like to use the blends to add in my colors. But the truck is a 2-step stamp. So the only thing I have to color is whatever house we choose. And if we want to do anything else. So and I thought about this after I made my card the other day. I really like Pretty Peacock on the trees. So that was in our color combo. So let me remind you of our color combo. I should have printed the card. It's Cherry Cobbler, Pool Party, Pretty Peacock, Smoky Slate, and Basic Gray. So you'll notice I used the Pretty Peacock blends on this one. I didn't use Pretty Peacock on this one, but I think for the trees will be nice. And you can use whatever you have. We had an old set that had a truck with a tree in the back, and it had a house, and I loved it. I still have that one as well. Let's see, it was called Farmhouse Christmas. So if you still have this set, you could use this as well. That's a fun set too. So I like to give you ideas on things that you may have in your stash. And I pulled out my paper pumpkins for my Christmas greetings because I usually collect paper pumpkins. So I have an abundance and a variety of those. All right, it looks like A has won the toss here. So I'm going to pull some of these out and away so I can. So you use whatever you have. Like I said, I want the new snow one, but I haven't gotten it yet. And then I realized I had a retired one. So use what you got. Now, this is an older one, but it is not the 3D, the real thick one. So we will use this sandwich. Okay, let me see if I can get in here. So I'm going to take my piece of vellum, and you can see from this folder, it's really thick with snow, and then it kind of lessens. I'm going to put it up here a little bit. And in my other cards, I kind of put this at the top, but I'm going to use it the other way for our card. So I'm just putting it in there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I do like it less textured at the top. So it's completely up to you. So for this, you're going to use your 2 clear plates, and mine's very well loved, as you can see, and your #1 platform to do the embossing. And you guys, I just love what happens when you dry emboss the vellum. It looks so pretty. And then when you put it in, make sure that your hinge goes in first. So there is our vellum. Isn't it pretty? So there's that. And that's all we need this for. So let's move this out of the way. So there's our pretty vellum. Thank you for the love. Whoa, whoa. Okay, so here's our card bits. So remember, this one's just going to go in like this. So this is going to adhere to the bottom piece of this on the back side, like that. And here are our stamping pieces. Hey, Vicki, good morning. I love this folder too. And honestly, I think I would like the new one that's out. It's like a tiny snowflakes, and it looks really pretty. I've seen other people use it. I just haven't had a chance to collect it. So maybe I will before it goes away. Hopefully it'll carry over. Okay, so now we're going to start planning. So we know this is our front layer, and we want a truck on it. And it can go either way. So you'll notice, and I do this quite a bit, when I build my top layer, I typically put the top layer over this way and the bottom layer over this way. But we can do it opposite. So if you want the truck on this side, we can do that. And we have to pick which house we want. So, or you could even do the church. So what do you think? I'm thinking one of these two for the background. Maybe this one. I like to use this double one just because it lets you bring in extra color. And then I also like to put some trees on my layer. So we're just creating a little scene here. Excuse me. So, and do we want to put something in the truck? Do we want to put some big presents in the truck? So you stamp these separate. Then we can color them with blends and add in our colors, and we can put some trees here. And then we could stamp our Merry Christmas. So what do you guys think so far of my idea for my scene? I'm going to stamp all my outlines in basic gray. And then I'm going to bring in blends, and I do have pool party. I like the pool party truck. We could also do a red truck. So we'll have a little vote on that because I like to think about adding the pop of color and how that goes. And I usually do my greeting in the red, but we can change that. We can change all of it however you want. So what do you guys think? Thumbs up if you like my thing. And now this will have a couple of trees. We're going to build it a little bit and stamp it. So give me a heart or a thumbs up, and I'm going to get stamping. Some things around here. So you can have a lot of fun with these. And build them any way that you like. So I'm just tapping into my ink pad. You don't want to squish down on it. Our ink pads are foam. So if you press really hard and squish that stamp down in, it's going to leave halo around your image, and you don't want that. So you just want to tap it. I'm going to put our truck about here. Now remember, I'm cutting around the top of this, so it's going to come down a little bit. And if you have questions, just pop them in there. And I'm going to start stamping away. And while I have my gray open, I'm going to go ahead and do my wheels. So, while I'm stamping, what have you guys been up to? So I'm just lining up. This is how I like to line up the truck. I put the stamp right onto the image that I stamped, and then I pick it up with my block, because photopolymer can move and get kind of wonky. It doesn't have to be straight. So I like to kind of place this where it goes on my image. Oops. And make sure I have it just right. And then pick it up with my block. I don't know why, but I'm having a hard time seeing. Now, I could use a blend to color that in, but this set is a 2-step stamp, so I like to use the filler. So we'll fill in the truck as well. And then the presents have a stamp too. This has a stamp to fill in. So I could do that in the red and then add other colors in to this. But I also like to just use blends and make that really colorful. Okay, so here comes the presents. Sorry, I know I'm pulling this down. I'll pull it to the side. My camera is right at my face, and I can't see very well. So, fingers crossed. Whew, pretty decent. Okay. So there's our truck. And our greeting is going to go on there too. So now I'm going to put this up here, and I'm going to come in and start stamping this. And I want to tell you a little thing. On this one, I used a Stampin' Write marker to draw in my hill. So if you like a hard line, like you stamped the scene, you certainly could use a marker. And I used a Stampin' Write marker because it's the same formula as our ink, and it works well with the blends. So you can do that if you really like that defined look, or you can just cut it and leave it like that. And we'll make a decision before I finish which way we want it. But right now, I'm just going to focus on stamping my things. So my little house here, we're going to put it up here. And then we're going to add some trees. Okay. So that's it for my outlines. Now, we're going to decide, do you like the hard lines that define the hills, or do you like it with just the paper cut? So this is pretty. It gets kind of lost, I think, but both ways are good. So it depends on your style, excuse me, and what you like. So let's do one with lines and two no lines. So let's do that, because then we're going to draw in what we want, and then we're going to color and cut around. And we still have to decide some other colors. So you guys have a lot of choices today, but I really, really wanted you to be involved in a lot of the decisions, because this is part of the planning process. So one is we're going to draw in some lines, and hopefully my marker's working. Sometimes I do bring in a Sharpie and I just chance it with the blends. But I do like to use these. My marker's kind of dying. I use it a ton. So, one, we're going to draw in lines. Two, we're going to just cut it, and it's just going to just kind of blend in. And we could use, let me grab it. It's right here next to me. Oh, maybe not. Wonder where my marker went. I had a smoky slate marker. Must be on my table. So we could draw it in with smoky slate, and it's a little bit lighter. I also use the black quite a bit, and then I have the cherry cobbler out too. So sometimes when I have little wreaths and bows and things, I like to use the Stampin' Write markers because it has that fine tip. And there's a newer version. This is the newer version, so it looks a little bit different. I have not replaced all my Stampin' Write markers because you have to buy them in color families. So, all right, it looks like we are drawing them in. So I'm just going to freehand it. Don't be afraid to do it. let's see. I don't have a whole lot of scrap paper over here, but I'm going to see which. So that is Smoky Slate. And that is the basic gray. So you can kind of see. So if you want it to be a little bit lighter, you could do a light one on this one and then the darker one back here. The reason why I originally chose the smoke or the basic gray was because this already has a stamped line and I wanted to mimic that look. So that's some of the reason behind my choice. All right, so I'm just going to freehand my snow and oops. My marker's dying on me a little bit there. It's working, but so there are my lines. I'm not worried about if it's perfect. Again, if you like the lighter line, choose that. But now we are going to start adding in our colors. So let me get some of these put away. And again, I'm going to use Pretty Peacock on my trees. Let me see. Probably should have put a tree over on this side. But that's kind of how it's going to look. This part's going to get cut away. And so I could tuck a tree down here. We'll see. We will see. Okay, so we have a decision to make. Are you guys ready? What color do we want our truck? You could do Pretty Peacock on the truck as well, but I try to balance my colors kind of in a triangle. So here I have a red house, a red bow, and then it goes like this. So I try to think about where my colors are and spread them around, if that makes sense. So, yes, the lines definitely change the look. So it just defines that, that stamp. Actually, I'm going to put this over here. I like to do the same thing on this one. I line it up just to make sure that I didn't get it wonky before I put it on my block. Excuse me. So we're going to vote Cherry Cobbler or Pool Party for our truck. So my original, I don't know what I did with that card now. This is Pool Party, but we certainly could do that deep red. You guys know I love red. You could also do Pretty Peacock. But I want to do my trees in Pretty Peacock. So if I wanted my truck Pretty Peacock, I probably would have put it so that these two weren't lined up, if that makes sense. I think that's where I was going with that originally. So that is a color choice, but I probably wouldn't have put my truck where it layers right behind or in front of my trees because I want to do those Pretty Peacock. Now, we don't have to. You could do those gray like I did on the other cards. So you guys want to go with red? I just love this old tiny style truck. And red is a fun, bold color. So I see 2 red votes, a Pool Party vote. Anyone else want to throw their hat in? Remember, it's not wrong. It is not wrong no matter what color you choose. When I'm planning my colors and kind of how I want my card to flow, I'm just trying not to layer all the colors that are the same on top of each other. I want them spread out throughout my card. So typically I would have chose one of these would be red. Some red would be on the presents, and then the red, my greeting would be red. So it makes like a V. But it doesn't have to go like that. You can change all the elements. That's the fun part. You could stamp the exact same scene and do a ton of different color combos. We're going to go with red because I don't see any more votes. Now, my red pad is giving me some fits. So I pulled out my red Stampin' Spot. And you don't have to two-step stamp this. You could also use your blend. So these come in the paper pumpkin. You can buy, there's an assortment of 8. I forget which colors are in those, but, and you can also buy them uninked and create your own with a re-inker. So if you don't have a lot of room for stamp pads, you can buy these in sets of 5, and they come with a lid. It doesn't have a label, but you could make your own. So there's our red truck. Are you guys ready? Hopefully I can line this up because it isn't like pool party. Oh, please, I hope it's lined up. Well, not exact, but that's okay, I guess. I don't know. Let's flip it over and try again. That bothered me. That's all right. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stamp this and then stamp the outline. It's okay. It happens. Sometimes the darker colors, I just have a hard time lining it up. And because I'm trying to stand and do this, the camera is kind of in my way of seeing. So I'm going to do it this way. Now, if you don't have a glass mat, you will want one of the Stampin' Pierce mats. I don't remember exactly where I had it. That's okay. There we go. Okay, and it will stain your stamp. Red ink stains. I'm okay with that. If you don't like it staining, you could use Versamark on your stamp and then ink it with red. Okay, so let's do this one again. I know, Xana, I wish we had those too, but I do kind of like the fact that they come the uninked spots, because then if you don't want all of the ink colors, you can really pick and choose, and it's a money saver. Good morning, Dad. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so I have my outline again. Oh, this might be even harder. We'll see how well I do. Oh, okay. It turned out good. I was a little worried. I'm going to do my wheels, though, the same way I did. Now, well, first I might want to turn it so that it's actually going to go the right way. Sometimes I use my blends and color these in, so that's an option too. I'm not too worried about if this is exactly perfect because it's not going to show on the red if I accidentally... There we go. Okay. So if it doesn't line up, don't worry. There's another side to the paper, right? Now let's do our presents. Okay. So now we're back in business. Okay. Let me draw my lines back in. Maybe. Oh, there it is. And I never draw it the same twice. Just so you know. It's however it comes out. Okay. So we are going to add some more color to those presents. But first, let me start grabbing out some of my blends. So I have my Pretty Peacock. I have Pool Party. And I have Smoky Slate. I do have Cherry Cobbler as well. Grab those. So there's our color scheme. We don't have basic gray blends. So if you want a really dark color, you could use the light basic black, but I find the Smoky Slate does well to cover both of the colors. So now we're going to start adding some colors in. We need to color our houses, and so our thing is going to layer like this. I normally do, so if you want a lot of red, you're going to do a red house. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and trim this so that you can see how it layers. So I'm just going to fussy cut right around this, and I do like to leave a little bit of a white border. So if you don't like the white border, you could cut right on the edge. So I am not a fussy cutting expert, but I do know that you're supposed to hold your scissors one direction and then move your paper. I'm not going to say I'm great at it, but I think I'm getting better. So there's that layer. And I like to keep this, even though I have this on the other side, I can use that for a greeting later on as a little scrap, or you can just throw it away. So remember, this is going to be cut away as well because our vellum is going to show through. So here is how it's layering, okay? Our greeting is going to go here. I typically do the cherry cobbler, but since we did the truck, you don't have to do cherry cobbler, and that's kind of showing through, isn't it? That I can kind of see it, but I think it's the way my light is. We're not going to worry about it. Once we get all the other colors on there, it'll be okay. Ooh, so Joan is suggesting a pool party house with a cherry cobbler door. And then we could do a gray. We could do cherry cobbler doors. Now, if you do a cherry cobbler door, what color do you want your bow? And remember, I wanted to do those in the Pretty Peacock. I just like that color for the trees. And we're going to add some colors on our presents as well. So that's how our layer is building up. Okay. So our greeting's going to go down here. We don't know what color yet. So I'm going to start coloring my trees, and you guys can start popping in some ideas for the houses. This is a dark Pretty Peacock, and I'm just kind of throwing it on there. I'm just putting a little bit of dark on, and then I'm going to come in with the light Pretty Peacock. Oops. You can color the whole tree. You can leave some white areas like there's snow piled on it. Whatever you like. I do like to leave some white areas. Okay, so there's my trees. Ooh. Joan changed her mind. So the cherry cobbler door is not wrong. We certainly can do that. So Vicky's suggestion was, if you want a red door, is to leave the bow white and add Wink of Stella. So we certainly could do that. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So let's try that. You guys want to do that? Add a little Wink of Stella. So let's start coloring. I think I'm going to do this house gray. I feel like I need something muted in here. So we're going to do a pool party house. And I am doing a little blending. You don't have to. You could just do it a solid color. Sorry about that. My throat is, I'm better. It's just I still have a little bit of a cough that will not go away. So there's the pool party. And if you don't want it to be really bright, you could just use the light. Oh, Wink Stella on Frosty too. Good idea, Vicki. Okay, so I'm going to use a light smoky slate for this house. You could also leave it white. I may go over it with the color lifter just to lighten it a little bit. Now this one I'm not blending. I'm not adding any dark on. I'm just doing the light. Now, one of the reasons why I like to use the blends here is because they dry really smooth. So when I have these big spaces, the blends dry smooth and they don't leave the lines like the Stampin' Right markers. Okay, I'm going to do I'm just going over that with my color lifter to push some of the color through and make it a little bit lighter. Okay, so I'm using light cherry cobbler on the door. Oops, I think I got part of my bow. Oh well. It's a tight space. So even if you wanted to use your Stampin' Right marker here on this one, you could. I'll do a red door over here too. So if you're in Ohio, this is like the Ohio State House, huh? I'm going to use the dark smoky slate on my roof and on the chimneys. Again, you could bring in the light basic black blend if you wanted to and make that a little bit darker. No, I'm going to leave that white. Just lightening this a little bit more. There we go. So what do you think? It's pretty bold. I like it. Now, if we had colored this with our blends, it would be a little bit different red, but that's okay. I like it. I'm actually going to use this. Let's do some red striped presents. Let's add in some pool party here. So I'm just using my red and pool party blends to add some color in there. So this is how it's going to look, and we'll do the Wink Stella here in a minute. What do you guys think? So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to go ahead and cut around. So yeah, try the bold color options. It can turn out really fun. And whoops, I cut right on the line on that one. That's okay. It's your card. So maybe maybe you are sending a card to a fan and these colors work out. I just love the teals and the reds. I think it's a fun color combo for winter cards. I use this color combo quite often for the winter. I like it. We have some retired snowmen that I've used this color combo with quite a bit. And it's just, you know, I do it with some of the house sets and the coffee or cocoa sets. So a lot of fun. Oops. Frosty's about to lose his arm there. Okay. There we go. Everybody still with me? So here is how this is going to layer on our card. And this folds over. What do you think so far? We picked some really bold colors. Thank you for the love. Now we just have to decide what our greeting's going to be, what color we're going to stamp it in. It's going to go right here. So our greeting's going to go right here on this front panel. And then I'll show you how to glue all of this together. I'm going to add a little color to this steering wheel. And let me grab my Wink of Stella. They could be. Oh, and now let me show you real quick on this other one what I did. So I will go in and add this in. So I do like to use the light smoky slate and add some shadows where my lines are and like around my truck. So I'm going to do that. Thank you, Vicki, for asking. Thank you. So I like to just add in, and you can do your steps if you want. I just like to add in some little snow lines, and we're going to smooth those out with our color lifter. That's one of the reasons why I liked to use the Stampin' Write markers, because I know they will work well with these. And I like to do around my trees. So we're just adding in some shadows. some lines. It doesn't have to be perfect, so you can add in more or less, whatever you feel you like. And then I use my color lifter. This one's getting kind of dry. I have a new one beside me. And I just go over top of those lines to help kind of smooth them. It actually pushes the color through your paper like that. But this is the lightest gray that we have, so this is how I get it to look how I want. Actually, open my... So you can just go along the edge. You can leave some darker spots. It's up to you. This just helps kind of soften that edge so it doesn't just look like a hard line. But if you do leave it as a hard line, that's okay too. Just try not to touch that red ink with your color lifter. It will pull the red. And you don't want to do that. You could also use maybe a texture stamp here. Okay. Instead of doing your blends. There we go. So there is our layers, like that. So I did add a little in. Now let's do our Wink of Stella. So for greetings, I have, in the trucking along, it says, wishing you a festive Christmas. So that's a greeting you could use. This one's from a paper pumpkin. Actually, both of these are. This one shows through. Merry Christmas to you and yours. And this is Merry and Bright. Those were in the same paper pumpkin. I love this font. This is from a paper pumpkin. Oh, and that's the same one. So what do we want to use? I have all my paper pumpkin stamps over here, I think. But do we want to say Merry Christmas, or do you want to say wishing you a festive Christmas? And I'm going to use my Wink of Stella here. And on my Frosty. And I'm just going to kind of go over this and maybe a little on my trees. Well, I'm waiting on your response. So we're going to add a little down here too. And I'm going to add a little sparkly to this bow. To balance out my sparkle here. So let's see if you guys can see that. So I added some sparkly to a bow. I have some sparkly over here. And I added some Lincastella to my snow. I see a vote for both of the greetings. So hopefully you guys can see that on the... So I love both of these. Here's the Wishing You a Festive Christmas, and then this one may be too big. This is the Merry Christmas I used on the other ones. It's pretty big. And we also have to decide the color. And honestly, I'm thinking Pretty Peacock because I want that color to kind of balance out. This is also another one of my favorites. I love this Merry Christmas right here. I like the scripty font. So let's see what you think. So these layer like this. And then your Merry Christmas would go here. And I'm thinking Pretty Peacock. So, what do you think? Let's vote. This Merry Christmas, and it's from the Paper Pumpkin, November 2016, or this Wishing You a Festive Christmas, which you guys can get. It's from Trucking Along, and I'm going to grab my Pretty Peacock ink pad. So, let's vote. A, Merry Christmas. B, Festive Christmas. I love that my inks are literally right next to me. So much easier. This piece will be on dimensionals, if that's what you mean, Vicky. So A, Merry Christmas. B, Festive Christmas. This is B. I hope someone's watching that wants to be a tiebreaker. Yes, I'm going to use dimensionals on that. You can do it either way. It's really a preference, but I am going to do dimensionals on this one. Oh, thank you for the love. Oh, somebody has to pick. If you're watching and you haven't put in a vote, I am tied between these two greetings. Oh, thanks, Deb. Okay, Deb's our tiebreaker. So we're going to go with Festive Christmas. I love this one too. So if you have these paper pumpkin sets, if you're like me, I keep all the Christmas ones that I've gotten. A lot of them are smaller greetings. They just have a lot of fun fonts in them. And they're all very, very different. Okay. Let's see what block this will fit on. Okay. Wishing You a Festive Christmas. And we're going to stamp it in Pretty Peacock. Now, I will tell you, good morning, Deb. I'm glad you could join us. when I'm stamping these and stamping my greeting, I typically use my stamp positioner tool. Just because if it doesn't stamp perfectly, I don't want to have to redo a whole layer. But I think I'm just going to go with it. I really do it when I use the red ink. I don't know why, but I just, I have a hard time with cherry cobbler ink. So I'm just going to wing it. There we go. That works. That was pretty peacock. And now these are going to just get assembled. Are you guys ready? I'm going to start with this piece. So I'm going to start with my vellum. And you will want tear and tape. Oh, no worries, Deb. I was up and down all night, so I'm going to take my tear and tape. I'm going to put it right along the edge of that little flap. Okay. So we want this. You want to use this or Stampin' Seal Plus. You can use liquid, but I don't prefer liquid on the top part. And this is going to go right up to my fold like that. Okay. That's one of the, I was doing this direction, and this is really bumpy and textured for this folder. And so, it was making it just a little bit harder to stick. So I'm going to go this direction this time. And I'm going right up to that fold. Okay. So just shy of it. Just want to make sure it's lined up so that it's straight, and then you're going to push this down like that. So when you have something textured like this, you really want to use a strong adhesive. And making sure I have it straight. And then I'm going to fold that down. And I want to make sure that's really adhered. It's holding our card front together. So there we go. Now you may notice that you have a little bit down here. I'm not going to worry about it. This kind of puffs up it because we've added a lot of texture to it. So I'm not too worried about it. Now, here's my thing for putting my support on. I lay this down like this so that it lines up with the bottom of my card. And I'm going to add adhesive here. And then we're going to close it. And that's going to make our bottom piece stable to build the front. And it looks like this is still just a little bit. I have a little lip there. That's all right. So I'm going to line this up and then add some liquid adhesive. And I am going to use liquid adhesive on this part. Yes, Vicki, you could use your bone folder to kind of flatten some of that area out where you want to adhere it. It really doesn't matter. Let me show you. I don't know if you can see it on this one. So this one I adhered the other way. And you can kind of see just the bumpy dots of the snow, which is fine. You just want to make sure, like I'm going to need to tuck a glue dot in here. You want to make sure that this adheres well because it's holding your card together. Actually, there, I got it. So the texture, you just want to make sure that the glue is adhering all your pieces together. Now you can use liquid glue. I just always worry about the top, it squishing out and my card not opening. So here's my bottom piece. Remember, this was 2 inches by 5.5, and I'm just lining that up with the very bottom of my card the best I can. Oops. Now, I do have a little trick. Let me show you. Let me show you my trick here. Might make it a little bit easier. Move those pieces for a second. You can use the edge of your trimmer to line up your pieces like that, and then close it. Oops. So now it's lined up. Now remember, this hangs over a little bit. That's okay. You can trim it with your scissors. It's just where we added texture, and our vellum doesn't go all the way to the top of our paper. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. And it's okay if it's not perfect. We're adding some layers on top, and we're going to sandwich it. So that's okay. So there's a little tip. Use the edge of your trimmer. So there's our card front, okay? And now we're going to start adding these layers. So this layer is going to go flat onto the vellum. And again, I'm using liquid adhesive, okay? You can use tear and tape on this part too. I just like to be able to move it around a little bit in case I don't get it exact, and you cannot move it with tear and tape. Once it's stuck, it's stuck. So I'm adding some liquid glue there. And then I'm just going to line this up. You could use your trimmer again. Actually, let me do that. It's a little easier to see, too. Or if you have a stamp positioning tool, you could use the edge. So I'm just lining this up with the edge. Like that. Now, now I'm running out of height on my trimmer to do that for the next one, but that's okay. We're just going to guess. So you can kind of see this is puffing up, and I want to make sure it all adheres. So I'm going to lay a clean block on top of it. Now we're just going to add some dimensionals to this. I don't know if I brought dimensionals. Excuse me. That's all right. We'll open a new pack. I thought I brought some over, but I don't see them, so just open a new pack. You can also use the foam. Excuse me. Sorry. We have the foam that you can die cut. That works well on this too. You can cut it into strips or rectangles, and it's going to give it some support. That's what I used on the barn one that I did, but I don't have any of that over here, so I'm just going to go with dimensionals. You could also, I think that one's hanging over, that's okay. You could also cut some strips of cardstock and add behind this and just cut around it and make several layers to build it up if you don't want to use dimensionals. I tend to use a lot of dimensionals. So that's just, I just feel like I need to make it stable. So now I get to take all the backings off. You could do the, take your pick tool trick where you pull all the backs off with the piercing tool. But I'm just gonna do it the old-fashioned way with my fingernail. Okay. Now we're going to line this up the best we can. I usually just try to pick an end. Like a corner stuck to my finger. Oops. And make sure that it's even on the edge, on the bottom. You could also, again, like I said, my trimmer, it's not tall enough for that layer, but if you have a stamp positioner that has a little bit of height on the side, you could use that to help line it up. So there we have our card. Can you guys see the shiny? Now, you could also stamp a greeting in here that shows through like I did on the one, or you can just leave it plain and then add your greeting. Now, this, it does stand, but this is heavy on the front. So sometimes I like to add in another piece of cardstock. Of course, it doesn't want to stand up today. I think it's because this is slick. In that back part where you would write your message to help balance out the heaviness of the front. Thank you so much for the love. Thank you, Linda. So there's our card. What do you guys think? Can you see the Wink of Stella? I can't tell on my screen. I might need to add a little bit more. Oh, Joan, I'm glad to hear you'll try it. Thank you, Deb. I hope you will. It is a wow card. It is a special card. Like I said, I used all my barn ones last year for our Christmas cards. But I think, you know, you could mass produce. You could do your vellum. You could emboss all of it. You could do your layers. You could even do them all the same. All my barn cards were very similar. Or I used the cabin with the sleigh riders. I loved those sets, and I still have them, and I still use them. You could also use that one I told you, the, what was it called? Farmhouse Christmas. You could use so many sets that we've had. We've had lots of different house sets. We've had lots of different trucks and Christmas sets and scene builders that you could use. So lots of fun. Let me bring back in my other ones here. So, and just another tip really quick. While this is drying, sometimes I do just lay clean blocks on my cards. It helps flatten them out a little bit. It's not going to hurt your embossed layer, but it will help your cards lay a little bit nicer to go into the envelope. And it's not too thick. So as you can see, you can still mail this without issue. So there's the card we made today. And then here's the ones that I made the other day. I love these. So you can have your greeting peeking through. So when I open this, there's my greeting. I can still put my message down here. And these are gorgeous cards to display. You can do it this way. And see, I just added a white piece with my colored base, and it works just fine. So if you just have paper and you want to do that, you can. And you can even make, this is a slimline card. So I like to make these too at Christmas, or you could do a mini. You could do whatever version you like. And this has a die cut with it. So these trees die make a die cut, and then this cabin does. So if you have this set, it's great too. So there are all my cards. I hope you guys are loving this technique. I call it a see-through card, but really it's vellum and it's kind of an opaque look, but it's really fun. I love it. So if you try it, I'd love to hear what stamp sets you use. If you need any Stampin' Up! Supplies, you can go to bethroy.stampinup.net and click on my Shop Now button and go to my online store. The Trucking Along set you can get, the Winterly Treetops. This is the Nests of Winter paper, Yuletide Village. Again, pull out your favorite Christmas greeting sets that you've collected and pair those with whatever you have on hand. You could also just do a lovely forest scene or anything really. The sky's the limit, right? So thank you all for joining me, and I will see you soon. Oh, I do want to give you an update. Next Saturday will be my last Saturday Coffee and a Card live for a little while because we have basketball season upon us, and I will be at basketball on Saturday morning. So I will find another date that we do a coffee. It might not be a coffee and a card because it may be a lunchtime crafting. I have not chosen a day yet, but all of my videos will be able to be replayed and viewed on Facebook as well as uploaded onto YouTube. So if you miss my live time, you will be able to watch replays, but I hope that we'll still be able to hang out and chat and craft together during basketball season. So just wanted to give you an update on that, and I will remind you of that next weekend as well. So thank you all. Take care. Have a beautiful weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye.